So, welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success stories series of interviews, where we discuss with local business leaders their backgrounds, their successes and challenges, and what's really driving them forwards. And this afternoon, I'm delighted we have with us Bill Beaumont, who's director at Distant Future Animation Studio. And so, firstly, Bill, thanks so much for spending a bit of time with us today. And if you'd like to introduce yourself, your business, what you do, and how you help people, that would be wonderful.
Thanks, Chris. Yes, I'm Bill. I do run Distant Future Animation Studio. We've been trading as a company since 2011, and for a little bit of time I did freelance before that. There's a team of three of us now working across 2D animation, 3D animation, and virtual tours. The kind of people we work with varies quite a lot, but tends to fall between manufacturers, agencies who give us access to kind of a lot wider and kind of bigger household names that perhaps we wouldn't get exposure to working with as such a small company.
Yeah.
And we do quite a lot of work with the public sector as well. So a few different councils across the country we've worked with, and various charitable organizations and things as well. And they might use us for marketing content, training content. Again, the virtual tours is more of a sales tool, but anything where they want animation over rather than say live action for any kind of campaign or strategies that they've got going on.
Wonderful. So really, really interesting. Just probably if we talk about your background, Bill, how you got into business and why this particular one, that would be wonderful.
Sure. Well, I think I always had a bit of an entrepreneurial spirit in there somewhere. When I was young and at school, kind of teenage years, I nearly set up my own software reselling company, but wow. Kind of got quite easily talked out of that. But I'd been to speak to banks about funding and all sorts of so forth. That didn't happen.
Wow.
A dream that lasted a little bit longer was running a European-wide chain of pancake restaurants. So I quite enjoyed cooking and I love cooking pancakes. So why not set up a pancake restaurant?
Brilliant.
That didn't go ahead either. I'm not sure why I drifted away from that one, but that one I think got distracted by A-levels in university and things, which took me in a different direction completely. So when I was looking through the prospectus for universities, literally nothing was jumping out at me at all. Yeah. But my form tutor at the time said, "Oh, Bill, I think you'd be a really good primary school teacher." And I went, "Okay, great, I'll do that." So went to Sunderland University on a primary education course, and after a few years found it wasn't really for me, and then went on to a computing course, which I graduated from, and got a job in IT support for a financial services company. And it was great, but inspiring. I mean, I could do it. I had the logical brain. I could apply myself and understand computing. And I'd been around computers all my life because my dad was a big computer boffin since probably the 70s, really.
Wow.
And so yeah, settled into that, but knew it wasn't quite exciting. Didn't make me excited to get out of bed in the morning. Did that for a couple of years, and then went on an adventure with my partner and our 2-year-old daughter, teaching English over in China. And then while we were away, I was watching Monsters Inc. and with her, and with knowing that I could use computers, but not knowing what I wanted to do with it, seeing Monsters Inc. and then having that realization that that's all done with computers.
Yep.
I got this spark, this kind of
wonderful
light happened, and so I started to move into it from then, that was 2006.
Yeah.
Then enrolled on the master's degree at Bradford Uni, and did that when we got back in 2007, and then freelanced a little bit, just finding my feet really, and still having part-time jobs to actually to earn some money, but finding my feet as an animation freelancer.
Yeah.
Bumped into somebody else who was in a very similar position, and then in 2011 we set up as Distant Future Animation Studio. So it's it sort of evolved that way.
Fascinating story, and I meet quite a few people who, they always know they wanted to have a business. It was like, it's just how, if that makes sense.
It's funny. Sorry to butt in. I never thought I really want to have my own business when I grow up. But these kind of ideas that were appealing to me or popping into my mind were did seem to be along those lines.
Yes. Oh, absolutely fascinating. So, obviously you've done and tried a few different things, but when you growing up, this, I guess, wasn't the outcome. Were you clear on a different path, or was it really just see what what?
Yeah, I didn't really. I mean, again, coming back to that prospectus, there was nothing in there that that grabbed me. So, incidentally, I had been doing some animation just in my own free time, just messing around on some of the software that my dad had. So I was doing that for fun at the time. No thought of it ever being a career or anything like that, or anything in TV or film. It just never even crossed my mind at all in any way. But seeing where I am now and kind of thinking back, reflecting on the younger version of me, I can see why this feels right. Why it's I guess in its separate components, it's always been there.
Yeah, interesting. Those different things coming together and to where we are now. So looking back, as you've grown and developed Distant Future, what are some of the biggest challenges and issues you've had to overcome?
Biggest challenges and issues are, I think, really staying in business sometimes has been challenging. Obviously, any business, well, I'm sure there weren't exceptions, but as we've been around for 12 years, obviously there's peaks and troughs. And there have been a couple of troughs. But I think one of the biggest challenges, other than that, is the person who I first set Distant Future up with, after a couple of years, wanted to take the business in one direction, and I wanted to take the business in another direction. So his idea was a lot more fun. I will give it that for sure, definitely. But he wanted to develop our own TV series, our own property to basically put out there and make and develop those. I thought that was a fantastic idea, but it takes a lot of work and a lot of time to develop your idea, get the pitch, get the character bibles all together, develop your stories, write basically at least an outline of the entire first series, if not more. Ideally build up a bit of a following before you're taking it to funders and to people who might actually commission it. So I was seeing, we knew the path, but it was a very long path to get to something that would actually give us any return. And with 5 employees, I was on the other side of it. We had clients who were asking us for work. And so we could either take the long shot, not earn any money for who knows how long, or take the work that was there right in front of us that would pay us that month and the next month and so on. And we did a little bit of groundwork on the TV series, but didn't get very far with it. The client work, we more focused on that because it was paying the bills. But the person I set it up with gradually got more and more frustrated in the job, working. I'm sure he works with clients now and does something brilliant. So it's not working with clients that annoyed him, but it seemed to find it was harder for him to give a decent level of customer service, if you like, to the clients we were working with at the time. And I think that was, again, not because he didn't know what he was doing in terms of customer care and things. I think it was just the frustration of not doing something that he was truly passionate about anymore. So he's moved on. He's not animating professionally anymore, but he has pivoted slightly, and he's doing web design. He's worked for a company. I think he's moved a company a couple of years ago, but basically fell straight into that after leaving Distant Future. And he's been working with it and enjoying it for the last, I think that was 8 years ago. Probably 8 years ago at least now. So he's again found something that he did enjoy. But that was an interesting time, having 2 people kind of pulling in different directions and seeing the kind of frustrations and tensions that brought to the business.
It's interesting, actually. You've highlighted that, and I've worked in many businesses, especially with partners and partnerships, and I found it's really common that although we feel at the start that we're fairly aligned, even a slight misalignment over time can produce quite a big gap. And I
Yeah.
do think I think the two things that I found really important. One is to align ourselves as much as possible to a long-term future, just so we both agree what it looks like then, because we often have an idea what that might look like, and to make sure it's not too far apart. But also I think accepting that we might diverge, and therefore have a plan to enable that to happen easily. Because at the point of divergence, it can be a little bit painful, a little bit stressful. It may not be with you guys, but it's good to accept that it may not be a forever plan, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So what are some of the other learnings that you've had about growing a business, Bill, would you say?
Well, it's an interesting question, because having been going for 12 years and we started off with 2 people, we're currently now a team of 3.
Yep.
So in terms of growing a business, certainly in terms of the number of employees, we've not done a whole lot of growing over 12 years. We have been bigger. We had a couple of European placement students. Well, yeah, this is going back now nearly a decade, and I think that took us up to 8 people at one point.
Yep.
But yeah, that things quickly at one point dwindled back down to 1, and then we're back up to 3, and we're working with a freelance marketer now as well. So not quite 3.5, but in terms of growth, if you measure it in that way, we've not really grown that much. And to be fair and completely open, our turnover hasn't really changed all that much in the last 4 or 5 years. Okay. So we're fortunate to be at a point where we continue. Everybody's paid well. The work that we're doing is keeping the I'm not in the studio now, but keeping the studio roof over our heads and everything. Yes. But in terms of kind of phenomenal growth, that's not something that I can kind of tell you very much about, to be fair.
No.
I think that's okay. I mean, it's when I was setting the business up, people said, okay, first of all, what's your what's your end goal? What's your out, basically? And I thought, well, I don't really have one. I want to do this till I retire and then probably beyond. And they said, okay, well, what's your vision for the company? And I said, I'm not sure. I just want to carry on doing it, enjoy doing it. I'd never had the goal of it being, say, a 200 strong mega company or a 20-person agency in the city centre of Leeds or anything like that. I just wanted to be able to keep doing work that I love doing. So that's the goal, sort of thing, rather than
that's absolutely right.
So on and so forth.
It's really important to be in touch with what we really want to achieve, and there is the concept, which I don't know if your thoughts on it, but I think from Michael Gerber, which the idea of business is, it's like a tree, it's either growing or dying. So it doesn't mean it has to have massive growth, but it has to be continuing its longevity. Forgive me, my memory's fading as I get older. But you said, when did you start Just in Future?
As a partnership. Technically, we weren't trading as a limited company until 2014, but we set up as Distant Future VFX at the time in 2011. So you're
talking 12 years, and one thing that you may or may not be aware of is the statistics of business. The average statistics of businesses are that most 80% actually fail in the first 5 years, and of the 20% that survive, 80% of those will fail in the following 5 years. So just to be at over 10 years puts you in the top percent of businesses in general. So skimming about that, let me just turn this.
No worries.
So obviously the question was about growth, but being around is quite a significant achievement. So what would given statistically that's quite a small number of businesses do. What sort of things have you learned that have helped you do that?
That has helped me. Learned that have helped me do that. I'm sorry. The answer that I just popped into my head was just a bit daft.
That's right. Daft's good.
I'm not sure. To be honest, we did very nearly close down after. I think it was in our 4th year, and this was at the point when when the other director did move on, and
Yep.
we did have a staff of 5, including 3 directors. This was when I was 40 years old. I had an income of 7 grand a year. I was in a pub on a Friday night chatting to a pal just about kind of work stuff, and I was aware of my body language, and I was suddenly became aware that I was sat in my hands and I was rocking back and forth, and I just thought, this isn't good. This isn't where we want it to be.
Yeah.
We sat down, me and Steve made the first plans. We thought, okay, well, at the end of the first year, we want to be earning a minimum of 20 grand. And here we were a couple of years into it, earning 7, and thinking, I could literally be having any job now apart from possibly a paper round and earning more. If I was doing this for somebody else, I could be earning 4 times as much. What are we all doing? What are we all doing? So we were going to wrap up, and we had a directors meeting, and all 3 of us agreed that it served its purpose. We'd had a shot. We had a couple of years industry experience now, so let's move on. And the other director was really happy, and he said afterwards that he felt like throwing his hands up in the air and running around the room and cheering. For me, as soon as we said, he felt released, basically, of all the stress and pressure and kind of doing something that he wasn't really enjoying or passionate about, and not earning a decent wage on it at all. He felt a massive weight lifted from his shoulders. As soon as we said, okay, let's just finish it then, and everybody nodded, I just heard a voice in my head saying, I'm not done. I'm not done. And it just kept going about 3 or 4 times, and then a phone rang, and it was a client. And it was a client who didn't actually, it was a small job, it was an animated logo, and it didn't even go ahead. But that was just another sort of coincidence, which persuaded myself was a reason to keep going. But it was very, very good. But we were nearly that second set of 80% who shut down. Very, very close. We did, I guess, technically for about 10 seconds, because we did say, we're done. So.
But great. I mean, that's a great story of sort of resilience and determination of keeping going, which is, I think, it's a lesson for many people in business, is keep going. Just keep going. I mean, there is an element of recognizing when we're done. That's fine. And applauding your co-director for that being the right for him. But we've got to look at what's right for us. I think you're aware we're a coaching organisation. I'm keen to know who the best coaches you've worked with, but in any form, whether that's business, sport, life in general. Who are the people who have had the biggest influences on you?
I think in terms of coaches, there are 2 actually that I've worked with that come to mind. One was through a school for social entrepreneurs. After I'd graduated with a master's degree, I had 2 plans. One was Distant Future Animation Studio, and one was the Keighley School's animation project, which was a social enterprise designed to basically go into schools, do creative activities with kids, and then take the resulting animations and send them out into the world. So not just go and do an animation workshop, but get that, put it on a DVD, send it to film festivals across the world, and kind of see kind of that empowering effect. When I was at school, no one ever said I could be an animator for a living. There was no mention of any creative careers or anything like that. And I don't know if I was trying to compensate for that, but I thought there was some kind of some value for the kids involved of basically seeing that their stuff can go out into the world and have an effect, but then also that this kind of creative practice can be doing something for a living. And I've gone off the point a little bit, but anyway, through the School for Social Entrepreneurs, we were doing action learning sets, and the lady I was working with was really, really good. But I was just sort of smiling to myself when I remembered about this. But there was one specific question she asked, which I don't remember right now, unfortunately. But we'd been going down a route, and she was trying to get me somewhere, but she's not allowed to say where she's getting me to. Right. She asked me questioning to kind of elicit the answer out of me. And she got me to a dead end, and I had nothing more down this route. And she said, okay, you don't know the answer, but if you did know the answer, what would it be?
What would it be?
And that just made me laugh, because I genuinely didn't know. But that was still all very valuable sessions, apart from maybe that one question. But the other one I've worked with is a gentleman called Haroon Rashid. He trades as the business fixer, and I worked with him in early 2022. And as somebody who's the sole director of a company, I don't have anybody apart from the staff that I work with to bounce ideas off.
Yes,
you can talk to friends in other jobs. You can talk to your employees about most things, but it's when you're kind of making those decisions or thinking things over, or trying to come up with a different approach, or if you need
yes,
a sounding board or just some external input with ideas that aren't your own.
yeah,
I found Haroon was able to do that as well. He's very, I hope I'm not doing him a disservice. I'm sure he does something different with everybody he works with, but it was very, he was taking me down a process that was valuable, starting again with some of the basics, but then just helping me analyze and rethink and refocus on what I was doing.
yeah.
And we were only able to continue that coaching for a few months because we did go into another dip, a bit of a post-COVID dip.
Yeah.
We were fine up and down through COVID like this. It was crazy. The busiest times ever, the quietest times ever, but it leveled out. Across the year, we were okay. But then we found after COVID, there was a bit of a lull. And at that point, one of the things that had to be knocked on the head was the business coaching. But some of the things that I worked with Haroon, I still work with now, and I still reflect on the mentoring that I had with him, which has set me in good stead.
Brilliant.
It's nice to have someone else to answer to sometimes, you know.
It really is. I mean, obviously, it's something I do professionally, but I have my own coach because the challenge is we I know all the I have a bunch of techniques that I've been taught for 20 years, but it's very difficult to coach yourself. It's definitely very difficult to have that critical view of things that we strongly believe in or we think we've got the right answer. It's very difficult to then take a more critical view or just ask questions around, is that the best way? And so it's a very valuable thing. And if you look into the sports world, well, they've known, the sports world have known the value of coaching for many, many years. And even top athletes, top sports people will have a range of coaches for different things. And no, it is a very valuable thing to have. However we get it, whether it's a critical friend or anything like that. Anything like that, and whether that's through the coaching or just life in general. Do you ever find yourself using any favourite quotes or sayings on a regular basis, Bill?
No, but there is one that I stumbled across the other day, which kind of stuck, and I thought, yeah, I like that. That makes sense. I think partly because partly because it makes sense, but also I think it had a resonance with me just because we've started working with a marketing person as well, and so some of this quote was missing for us perhaps, but I forget whose quote it is, but early to bed, early to rise, work like hell and advertise. And that's was doing the early to bed and the early to rise. We were working like hell, but we weren't really doing a lot of advertising, which we're sort of addressing now. So yeah, it felt like again, maybe coming back to why are we kind of stable but flat over the last few years, and maybe that's the missing piece. But I liked it because it rhymed, and I liked it because it had that kind of poignancy for me at that time as well.
Absolutely brilliant. No, and yeah, bang on. It's it's amazing how many businesses I find that are doing quite well despite a lack of marketing and lead generation, and it just that can be as you said, the missing ingredient for growth. Is just let's get more people. Existing customers know how good we are, but if we don't, through some mechanism, allow other people to find out how good we are, then we're only going to stay the same at best. But
I was going to say, incidentally, I at a networking event, I bumped into. She's a graphic designer, and she doesn't even have a website. She just purely relies off a word of mouth, and she's been working. I think she was saying about 8 years or so, and she finds that with the word of mouth, she has enough work to keep her busy. She can pick and choose when she's working, so she's got that kind of real freelance flexibility.
Yeah.
She's never felt the need to actually to have that kind of even an online presence because she hasn't needed it. So I was quite surprised at that. It seemed like one of the first things we need to do particularly as a visual business, but you can succeed without it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
Good luck, but yeah, you can.
To a certain level, absolutely. It's not a requirement, and it's becoming more and more easy to have, a website in quotes. Things like a LinkedIn page, a Facebook page can and should be the equivalent. But if we the website pages are basically our shop front. If we don't have a shop front, people can't, find it very difficult to enter the door. Open the door. So. But no, fascinating. And Bill, what have you learned about yourself? You've had, through the career, through growing Distant Future. What are some of the things you've learned about yourself?
That I think that the biggest thing is I found I'm not always 100%. Well, I'm pretty much never 100% comfortable telling people what to do.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I work in a team of 3 and we work quite collaboratively and quite creatively. But the moment I have to it's a good job I wasn't a teacher, but I was going to say kind of teach, inform, or even dictate, which is a strong word. But I do feel kind of I guess emotionally, kind of not emotionally, but it feels weird for me to be almost. I feel like I'm talking down to somebody when I'm telling them what to do. And I think that in a creative job, in a creative sphere, that can actually be really useful, because if we're working on a creative project, generally what we do is when we get a lead in, I will work with the client and we'll define the brief. We'll figure out exactly what's going to be going on in there. And I will then hand that over to Lauren or to Tom to run the project and kind of delegate the creative tasks and everything like that. Yep. And so I'm passing on information and then letting them run with it. Occasionally, I do find myself sticking my oar in. Sometimes it's a pain, sometimes it's useful, but there are times when you have to, when you just think, okay, no, that definitely needs tweaking, mostly because of what I've been speaking to about the client.
Yeah.
So I'm in a position where I don't really have to do that sort of telling people what to do. I prefer to support people. So, okay, this is what you need to do. Go for it. I'm here to help you out and let them run with it. And occasionally there's a little bit of steering to do, but I think partly because of the company culture and partly because of the people I work with, that works really well.
Yeah.
But not just in work as well. Outside of work, I don't feel kind of sometimes very comfortable asserting my own knowledge, if you like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's probably the biggest.
Great. And it's good to be self-aware. What am I good at? What am I good at, and do I enjoy? What is it that I don't enjoy? And why wouldn't we spend? I think Brian Tracy talks about the most successful organizations are the ones where most people spend most of the time doing the 3 things they really love and they're really good at. And everything else, let's delegate. Let's find somebody else that would love and do those things, because there's always somebody for everything we don't like or we don't feel particularly good at. There's always somebody else that is, and that does like it and is good at, and it just makes life easier. I think it's quite central. So looking forward, then, what does the future look like for you guys, and what challenges do you might face, if any?
Well, the thing about a company that sort of let's put it harshly and say coasts or stagnates, we're as I say, we're pretty much level over the last sort of 5 years.
Yeah,
is costs increase, salaries increase. You need your turnover to increase at some point. You're going to run out of money quite quickly.
Yes, that's so
true. We're at the moment we're diversifying ever so slightly. So I mentioned at the beginning virtual tours. So we've just wrapping up on our 3rd one. One of them has been a tour of a property. So you're kind of clicking online and you're looking around, and you get various pop-ups to kind of various kind of sales message or links to websites and so on. But you're basically exploring a property, sort of, if you like, looking outwards at the thing around you. We've done two where we're kind of reversing that model, and instead of looking outwards at the room around you, you're looking in at a product. So it's. I'm just hesitating because I don't think I can tell you too much about it. But
No, that's
basically,
okay.
we're applying using the same tools to look inwardly to thing and get information about this product, links to their website, links to make appointments for sales calls, links to informational PDFs. But again, this is something that's experienced interactively online.
Yep.
So whereas before our animation has always been you press play, you watch it, or you're loaded for a website, the animation plays, and then it gets to the end. This is more of an interactive piece of content.
Yep.
So we've done a few of those now. And then we're also looking at other tools to do animation, but in a more sort of off-the-shelf way. So there are various tools out there which can help you build a lot more content a lot more quickly, which is a lot more cost effective for people at the end of the day.
Yep.
So people have lower budgets and they can effectively in a way you're using a very sophisticated template to build animated content, but you might be able to put together a minute of animation with characters moving and everything like that in, say, about a day.
Right.
Whereas if we were designing the characters, which means they're fully bespoke to the client,
Yep.
they're very brand consistent, we can make them move anywhere we like, we can put them anywhere like, we can make them look any way we like. That's all needs to be designed and then created. And that animation might take 2 or 3 weeks, but it's unique to them. And that obviously carries a bit of a higher price tag. It's a bit of a kind of higher level of product. And that's where we've been. And there's, to be fair, there aren't too many lower budget clients who we have to push away, but they do exist. They are a thing. So we're exploring tools to help us bring in that, which wouldn't replace what we do, but those people who do perhaps have a need for a very large amount of content. It doesn't need to be bespoke. It just needs to get a simple message across, perhaps where the overall, it doesn't need, I'm making it sound rubbish here, but it doesn't need to look particularly high-end or bespoke. It looks good, don't get me wrong, but you ultimately get what you pay for. I guess it's the difference between buying a shirt off a shelf in a supermarket or having one tailored. And obviously the tailored shirt that's bespoke to you is going to look fantastic, but it will cost you more. The one off the shelf in the supermarket might well be very, very low cost, but it might not last. The color might fade. So the analogy can continue. But yeah, it's that sort of model. So we're bringing in that as a different tool, as a way we can broaden our offer to a wider range of clients.
Brilliant. Well, good. Very, very much good luck with that, and be good to maybe swing by in another 6-12 months and just see how that's developing for you. And
the other thing moving forward, sorry, AI, of course.
Yes.
We're keeping a very close eye on how AI can bring into what we do, and it's in terms of the creative fields, it feels really good at making random stuff right now.
Yes.
So, but a lot of the stuff that we do is very specific. So a client they know exactly what their product looks like, and they know exactly what they want to show and exactly how they want to show it. So you can just immediately get into your software and do that. Whereas if you're typing in a prompt to try and get AI to do that, it might look a little bit weird and janky, but then also it might not quite be what you want. And you might get 10,000 iterations of, that's not quite right. It's, from what I've seen, the fine control over it isn't there yet. Yes, you can refine your prompts and get it to do something different, but it might not quite be right for clients who have a specific outcome in mind. If you've got creative freedom, or if you're doing perhaps TV series, or you're doing something that you want to just generate lots of ideas for, it's not quite there yet. Well, that's not what we do right now, but they are starting to do fantastic things where you can just type in something and it will come up with a 3D model base, which we could then take into our software. So if we were after set dressing, for example,
brilliant,
type it in and we could do that.
Yes.
You can animation as well is starting to be AI powered as well. So we're looking to see how that can add to what we do.
Brilliant. Must be very exciting times, I would think, with these things with what's going on.
Yeah, potentially. The big, the scary elephant in the room is: are we all going to be out of the job in 5 years? And we'll see in 5 years. We'll
Yeah,
keep embracing it for now, and I think it will just change what we do rather than eliminate it.
I agree. I think that's quite rightly as you've addressed it. An elephant in the room concern for many disciplines. Especially service businesses. And yeah, it like everything that, like most things that happen to us, is more about change.
Mhm.
Most people still want a personal approach. Even if some of the donkey work is done in a different way, most people still want to deal directly with people for some of what they do.
Yeah,
But yeah, no, it's be interesting to see how things move forward. And Bill, what would you say to anybody that was thinking of going into business right now?
I would say to just have a bit of a plan, make a bit of a plan, and go for it. And
Brilliant.
ideally, be doing running a business or that you is either because you love the idea of running a business or because it's a business doing something that you really love,
Yeah,
which is where I started off. But if you're the second one, then just be very aware that there's a whole business side of it as well.
yeah,
It's not just about making beautiful animations or creating X, Y, and Z. There's the whole business side of it as well. And so getting outside help, if you have no business background, is very invaluable. But I would say, yeah, just do it. Even if you have other part-time jobs on the side to um, keep a roof over your head. If you've got the passion for something and the desire to do it, I'm a big believer that you should pursue it.
brilliant. Brilliant. And finally, what would be the best advice you could give an 18-year-old you if you could go back in time and do so, Bill?
Mine would be to skip the primary education business and to think about basically think about what is it you love to do in your free time and pointing out that there's a career in that.
Yeah, yeah.
That
Great.
it is. You don't have to do. Basically, you can do pretty much anything for a living, and so yeah, go study animation, go do something creative because that's what you choose to do rather than what you feel you should be doing. I think that.
Brilliant.
So, Chris, what would you say to an 18-year-old version of Chris? What do you
Oh,
say?
good question. Great question. Thank you for asking that question. I will. What would I say? Yeah, I think. I mean, I've done lots of different. I've not done lots of different things. I've been blessed enough to be able to do many things that I chose to do, like going. I've managed to do two quite long traveling trips over time, even throughout my career. But I think it's similar to a lot of people have said that I've interviewed. Start earlier, and yeah, don't limit your dreams. I think however big our dreams are, there's always bigger ones, and that's okay. That
Yeah,
would be mine. But thank you. Yeah, that's the first person that's asked me that, Bill. So I,
really.
I feel really appreciative and honoured of that. And you've taken me back a second, but yeah, I think those would be the two things. It's it's. I mean, I'll answer the question a bit further. I think my first business I joined as joint third employee, and we grew that up to 100 people and so on. But I was 10 years younger than the next youngest guy of the leadership team, and I remember feeling like I was being treated like the young kid and never really given the same recognition. And I think that's a big learning for me, for people I work with, people I employ, people that other people employ, is that your age is not a definition of your capability and experience, and therefore why wouldn't you do it earlier? And we're
Yeah,
seeing now how many young entrepreneurs, very successful entrepreneurs there are. And the message for me, and maybe for lots of people that I might speak to, and maybe even listen to this, is you don't have to have done so. You don't have to have had 10 years, 20 years under your belt to start a business and grow it, because experience is useful, but sometimes it teaches you beliefs about what you can't do rather than what you can do. So thank you. Great question. Wowzers.
Good answer as well. Good answer.
Thank you. Well, thank you. Yeah, I hadn't thought about it before, so you've got me on the back foot. But no, thank you. Yeah, very very useful. So, Bill, thank you so much. Been fascinating talking to you. And for anyone watching that might be want to connect with you or a distant future, what would be the best way to do that?
The best place is through the website. All the contact details are on there. It's distantfuture.co.uk.
Brilliant. Well, Bill, thanks so much. And yeah, I mean, with things that you're doing and especially the area you're working with, it'd be great to swing by again another 6-12 months and just see how things are developing. And in the meantime, thanks so much for your time today.
No worries. Thank you, Chris. Cheers.
Brilliant.